This is One Sentence News, a daily podcast featuring 3 news stories with a sentence-long summary and 1 sentence of context apiece. I'm Colin Wright. This is a sponsored message. I've been using Anchor as my podcast host for a while now, and it's been a pleasure to use. Anchor offers benefits that most other hosts do not. It's free to use, but it also has a collection of tools that allow you to create a podcast completely within the Anchor website or smartphone app. They distribute your show to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other distribution channels without any additional effort on your part, and you can make money from your podcast without any minimum audience size. So you can use it as a more traditional podcast host like I do, but it's also got everything you need to start a podcast from scratch. If you're keen to give it a shot, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It's Monday, June 13th, 2022. Let's talk about the news. From the New York Times, Russia-Ukraine war summary. Ukraine is expected to be given EU candidate status sometime this week, which is the first step along an at times very long path to achieving union membership, and it would be followed by a debate and discussion on the matter by existing member states later this month. In Russia, President Putin has said that it's his destiny to reclaim what he considers to be lost Russian territory, comparing himself to conqueror Peter the Great, which in turn has further alarmed many neighboring nations, especially since Russian forces recently completed one of their earlier declared military goals by conquering a land bridge between Russia-aligned Donbas territory and Russian-held, since 2014, Crimea. A Russian-backed court in Donetsk has sentenced 3 foreign-born soldiers fighting for Ukraine to death, the first such sentence on either side of this conflict, and one that is scheduled to be appealed by the defendants. There's some speculation that this sentence, which flies in the face of international human rights policies, might be intended to add perceived value to these captured soldiers so they can be traded back to Ukraine for more than they would otherwise fetch, as people not on death row. From the Associated Press, Biden orders emergency steps to boost U.S. solar production. U.S. President Biden invoked the Defense Production Act last week as part of a larger effort to beef up the U.S. solar energy industry in the midst of supply chain issues and ongoing investigations into possible trade violations by Chinese companies that have slowed solar panel imports to the country. Issues surrounding trade with China, which produces most of the world's affordable solar panels, combined with supply chain snarls caused by COVID and the invasion of Ukraine, have made it difficult for U.S.-based energy companies to make progress in their solar infrastructure deployment at the pace necessary for the U.S. to live up to its international clean energy commitments. The president invoked an act typically used during wartime to ensure solar companies can get what they need to produce solar panels in the long term, and he dropped tariffs on panels imported from Southeast Asia for 2 years to make sure U.S. energy companies have enough panels to keep building solar infrastructure in the meantime. And from The Guardian, Exxon must go to trial over alleged climate crimes, court rules. A high court in the U.S. state of Massachusetts has ruled that the largest oil company in the country, ExxonMobil, must face legal charges that it knowingly lied about the reality of climate change and continued to play an active, conscious role in worsening the ongoing global climate crisis. Fossil fuel companies, including ExxonMobil, have known about the impacts of greenhouse gases on the planet for a long time, and they've faced many lawsuits as a consequence of covering up that knowledge and their ongoing worsening of those same problems, while forcing taxpayers to clean up and pay for that cleanup of their messes, including devastating oil spills. This is not the first big court case ExxonMobil will face, though, and at a moment in which energy prices are sky high across much of the world, and governments are quietly deviating from clean energy policies in order to shore up their fossil fuel-based economies, in the midst of a supply shock partially caused by the invasion of Ukraine and Russia's subsequent expulsion from much of the global marketplace, it's unclear what this case might accomplish and how willing courts and lawmakers will be to punish these energy companies upon which they are currently so heavily reliant. If you're finding some value in One Sentence News, consider leaving a quick review wherever you get your podcasts and/or sharing the show with a friend. You can find out more about this show or subscribe to the email version at onesentencenews.com. And you can support this and other related projects, like the Let's Know Things and Brain Lenses podcasts, at understandery.com.